Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Inside Scoop. My name is Neil Crawford. I'm the founder of Anytime Soccer Training and also the host of the show. If you're not familiar with the Inside Scoop, it's a podcast dedicated to helping parents learn about the soccer pathways that would be available to their child if they lived in another city around the world. And that is exactly what we're going to do today. I'm sitting down with my second interview with Carl Ashley. Carl is the founder of Become Elite Soccer in that New Hampshire, Massachusetts area. We just spent over an hour talking about his program, while he founded it, how he got to the States. It was a captivating interview that I'm going to list in the show notes that I definitely encourage you to listen to. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go off script with our normal format where we explain soccer in both areas. We're going to go off script a little bit. And I want to talk about the various transition or various inflection points of Carl's football journey and compare that to how it is in the States. So, Carl, welcome to the show.
Thank
Please
you.
introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Carl Ashley. Thank you for having me, Neil. Yeah, I'm 34 years old, grew up in England, played at, through the Academy, School of Excellence Academy system up to 16. Didn't get my, YTS or professional contract, continued my education, went to Leeds Carnegie University. Played semi-professional there under, Graham Potter, who is a Premier League manager or looking, last Chelsea manager and getting touted for the Manchester United job. So lucky enough to be able to work under him. Once I finished my degree, I came over to America doing soccer camps with a company called Challenger, doing British soccer coaching around the US. Realized that you can make a living out of soccer over here, coaching soccer, which is very, very, very difficult in England, if not impossible, unless you play it at the top level. And you're seeing it now. Even the top coaches, top players are finding it really difficult to get work in football, in soccer in England. And from there worked for many years with various different clubs, and then we're 3.5 years into my own club, founding my own club, Become Elite Soccer in the Merrimack Valley, the New Hampshire, Massachusetts border. And everything's going really well. We have a unique approach to soccer, which we got into quite detail in the talk before, which I'm sure will be available to you as well.
Thank you for that. So, Carl, I'm going to start off with a very random question, and then we're going to get into the show. As you look at, and we're going to say Premier League soccer, which team or teams plays a style of play that is similar to how, if you could wave a magic wand, your players play by the time they graduate, become elite soccer? So we had a technical glitch. Carl is back, and I'm going to ask the question again, and then we're going to start with the show. Carl, when you look at the EPL and you look at the playing styles, the coaching styles, how the game is played at all the different teams in the EPL, I was just asking a fun question to say, which team or teams embodies a style of play that, if you could wave a magic wand, by the time your club team, not club, but your players become seniors, they
Yeah.
sort of play in that style of play. And it might be none, so don't let me pigeonhole. You might say no, they actually not nobody in the EPL. I don't
I
know.
mean, unfortunately, I'm a Manchester United fan, so it certainly won't be Manchester United right now or in the last 10 years, that's for sure. Um, you'd have to say, I mean, Manchester City and Liverpool, they've just been phenomenal over the last few years. Pep Guardiola, and Jurgen Klopp, they've regenerated how soccer is being played, and a lot of people are copying that. I do have I do think teams do try to overplay and play out from the back. I don't 100% agree with that. I think there's a time and a place to do it. But yeah, I definitely say those two teams right now.
It's funny you say that because I'm a Man United supporter. My boys, they support them more
Commiserations.
than me. Huh? Yeah, yeah.
Commiserations.
Thank you. And all right, so here we go. So my older son's club religiously plays out of the back. That's their thing, okay?
Yeah,
Just pass and move. And so he's acutely aware of that. And it's the same thing. It causes frustration at times because if you're overpowered, that one of their issues is once the team that they're playing figures out what they're trying to do, they make adjustments and it causes them issues. But that's the youth soccer at the youth soccer level.
yeah,
But as we watch Manchester United, and you're starting to see that sometimes at the professional level, if you don't have the personnel to execute the way you want the game to be played, you have to make some adjustments.
yeah.
So, and this part of it is for my sons because they're going to get a kick out of this. Is it a situation with Manchester United where he's trying to play one style, but slowly he's beginning to see that he has to be a little bit more direct, be a little bit more counter, sit back and defend, and then beat them on the counter, get the ball in the channels quickly, and counterattack? Do you feel like he's seeing that, or is just a coincidence, or we don't know what he's trying to do?
Yeah, I don't think we know. I don't think he knows. I don't think the players know. In particular with Manchester United right now, which is a shame. I think that's the big frustration. There's no clear, patterns of play. There's no clear like set philosophy of what we're trying to do. And you can see the players don't even know. I think it's just literally they get the ball and then they're thinking on the job. Whereas, a well-drilled, a well-coached team, they already know, we're going to look to play out from the back, then we're going to look to play it into the midfield and then into wide areas and then get crosses in the box. Or we might look to get it into our strikers' feet, draw players into the middle and there's going to be space out wide. Or have our players stay out wide, stretch the field, and then there's more space to get it into our strikers' feet, whatever it may be. But I don't see anything going on at Manchester United right now, which is, I think, as a fan, long-term fan, I was born in 1989, so I was lucky enough to live and grow up through the Ferguson era. But yeah, there's a real frustration there right now. There's no sort of style that we can see.
So before we hop into the show, during the Ferguson era, how would you describe, if someone said what was their style of play, what was their philosophy, how would you describe it to a novice?
Our philosophy was, get the ball into wide areas, into Beckham, into Giggs. Beckham would do his thing with his crossing, and we'd get the ball, get crosses into the box. And we've always had a strong number 9 that's good in the air, that can put the ball in the back of the net, or a strong centre forward that can score goals in and around it. That was definitely, that was the Manchester United way: get the ball out wide and put crosses into the box.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so now let's get on to the show. Again, we try to compare UK. In this case, we're going to compare UK to the US, but the way we're going to do it, because we've done quite a bit of these shows, is we're going to talk about the beginnings and the transitions through your soccer journey. So let's
Yeah.
talk about the beginning. So it's always going to be a beginning and then a transition, because I think those transitions, we want to dig into the details. So let's talk about the beginning. What is your earliest memory of quote unquote organized soccer? What is your earliest memory of playing organized soccer?
I remember my first practice with my local team, grassroots team, Brandon Warriors it was. I was in year 1 then. So I think, what's that, 5, 6 years old, in primary school, elementary school over here. So I was 5, or maybe I was a bit older, 6, maybe 7, whatever it is. But I remember one of my best friends was his older brother played for that team, Brandon Warriors. So his parents knew about it. My parents didn't know, about it. And they knew I was a good player from playing in the playground. and they asked me if they could bring me to practice. And I remember having to go home and try and convince my parents at that age, beg them to go. And they brought me down to the park, Nuttall Park in Ramsbottom. And that, yeah, from then, they signed me up, and I just loved it ever since. Or even before that, I loved it. But that was my first memory of playing organized soccer, and we'd play at the weekend and playing tournaments, and I'm still have friendships from that. I remember a lot of it, to be honest.
So let's unpack something. Who when you say they saw you play and then they said, "Oh, he's pretty good," or he would enjoy it like a normal adult would, how would they see you? Was it your friends and their friends told their parents, or did they see you around the community or what?
Yeah,
Nah.
just because we were playing all the time, we'd arrive before school an hour before to play for an hour. We'd play in our lunch breaks, and then after school or in our free time we'd be playing. So it was very easy, to see that this guy's got a passion and loves it. Or maybe he came into school with his Brandleston Warriors training jacket, and I want to have how do you do that? How do you play for that team? And finding out information that way.
And we're gonna speed this show up because I know you have to go, but
No,
I
don't
want to
worry, I
dig
organized it. So whatever.
okay, because I really want to dig into this. It actually gets a little bit exhausting, so you're gonna have a lunch. When you say you arrived early for school, you literally people would come to school early and play soccer. And where would you play?
Oh yeah, in the yard, in the playground. And as soon as I was old enough, well, before school, my parents were teachers, so they were keen to drop me off before school anyway, so they could get to their school and get to their jobs. And so we would arrive as early as we possibly could to, just to play in the street, just to play in the yard. And slowly, as people came, you're on that team, you're on that team. Or sometimes it would just be chasing the ball around, 1v 30, 40, whoever could win the ball. It all depends how much time we had.
So then by the time you played your first recreational experience, grassroots, you would already be, it wouldn't be some activity that the parents said, "Oh, let's introduce you to soccer." You were driving them to go, not
Oh yeah.
driving them, but you were pushing them to sign you up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was pushing my parents. I need to play on this team, and I just loved from my earliest memory. There's pictures of me when I was, I think, 2 years old, birthday parties, and all I was doing was juggling a balloon. I was always kicking a ball or whatever there was to kick. So yeah, I just loved it.
So to the earliest your memory, who was the coach?
My earliest memory, coach, well, I still know his name, is Billy Jackson. And he had help with another parent, Matt, as well. So I still remember the names. And they coached us all the way through. I had to leave at a certain age, to play a higher level and play at academy. But I wish I was able to do both, but they didn't allow you to do both once you got to a certain age, certain level.
Okay, so hold on. So Coach Billy Jackson and another parent were your coaches, and
Yeah,
did they have kids on the team?
yeah,
And do you think, and I know this is an academic question, but I still have to ask, were they paid?
no,
They were not paid, and they
no,
had kids on the team.
yeah.
And how many days a week did you guys train?
Just once a week.
And how would you describe that training session compared to when you first got over to America and started doing sessions?
The training sessions were literally just scrimmage, just games, just playing a game. You only had an hour. Maybe you do a quick warm up. Maybe you do a line drill. Pass it into his feet and you lay off, and then you take a shot. Couple of stuff like that. But as soon as we could get into a game, that's all we wanted to do. And I think I actually believe almost we're overcoached in America. but there's reasons why you have to coach. I think we talked about it in the other podcast because we don't understand the game as much over here because it's not around us. But just getting in a game situation as soon as we could would be the training session.
If you had to describe your coach, Billy, if you
Yeah.
had to describe his not soccer knowledge in terms of understanding soccer as an adult, watching it and that kind of stuff, but his ability to deliver a session. If someone said, okay, let me think about his ability to deliver a session. I mean, let me tell you why I'm asking this. One of the things I often hear in the States that I actually push back on a little bit is that they say, oh, because the game is, and then you can completely disagree, because the game is part of your culture, the parent coach knows how to coach better. And so therefore it's a lot easier in terms of you not having to pay coaches, where my counter is no, it's actually such a part of the fabric that it's not that the parent knows how to coach better, it's just the kids understand the game more.
Yeah.
It's not that you walking around, because I had relatives walking around thinking about session plans. It's just that it's just part of the everything. But to your point, to your knowledge, would he be thinking about session plans and this kind of stuff?
No, like I say, it'd be very, very basic, but that's, I think that's how it should be. And we learn ourselves. Again, we don't have to, we know about how to take throw-ins and corner kicks because we're watching it. We know about the positions, and so we're watching it and learning non-stop anyway, because it's on the TVs, it's on the radio, you can't get away from it, which is different over here. So it's a different thing, you can't just say, all right, quick warm up, then split them into two teams and go play. Because they'll be running it into the field over there or into the forest. They don't know what out of bounds is and the rules. So you have to specifically teach them. You can't just say go play up front. What's up front mean? Or you can't just go and say go play at the back. You're right back. Or right wing. So you have to coach them differently. But obviously, growing up, you just know the game, you understand it, and the rules and all that. So you can just go and play.
So let me ask you this, a bit of foreshadowing. Did anyone on your team, your grassroots teams, it doesn't have to be that first team, but in general, go on to play academy football other than you?
Yeah, a couple of us did, for sure.
And before you went to academy football, or even your friends who went on, would they, in your opinion, stick out like a light bulb in a dark room, or it would be something that one scout would see something, but another one wouldn't?
Yeah, I don't think I mean, a couple of us were very good, to be honest. But I think a couple of players on the team were very unlucky not to be scouted. And for my early team, Berry, my local team, School of Excellence, we were actually recruiting our players to come to that team, which is the School of Excellence, because we knew we were just lucky. I don't know if we were lucky, but we had a really strong team. We all went to the same school together. I think that had something to do with it. We were just playing non-stop, so we were all developing. We were all getting better. And that's what I say. I went through the whole academy, School of Excellence, then went to academy, practicing 3 times a week with top coaches, going through, technical training sessions. But once I got dumped out, come 16, you'd think that I'd be head and shoulders over the guys that didn't go. Not the case at all. I'd say that players were better than me when I got dumped out, and I was head and shoulders above them when I was younger. But when when it didn't go right, I would once I got released, I wouldn't say I was head and shoulders above players. Not definitely.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, so you're young, you're in this, you're having fun, you're kicking, you're doing grassroots. So as you got older, how did your transition to academies work?
So I was doing really well, standing out at the early ages. I got picked up, scouted by Bury FC, which is our hometown professional team, who were playing in League One, and I think they got promoted to the Championship. then, so they were doing quite well. But you know, they didn't have. I remember we trained on the car park. You know, we
But hold
trained.
on though, let's unpack this. When you say you were doing well, to the best of your memory, what does that mean? Were you scoring a lot of goals? Were you
Yeah,
that you were scoring a lot of goals?
yeah.
And then do you think did they always have people coming as scouting, or do you think someone said, "Hey, you need to come look at this Ashley kid. He's pretty good," or a little bit of both?
Well, it's back then as the newspaper. The newspaper would post, you know, the scores and the results, so it was quite easy. You know, Ashley scored hat trick. You know, our team. I remember I was even on TV. They had something on a Sunday on national TV on ITV network. You might have heard of that. Well, you've heard of it. You've been over there. Soccer Sundays, it was called. We actually call our indoor league now Soccer Sundays, and it's from that. I remember we scored a great team goal that was recorded. It was on the, you know, the cameras were there for a cup. I think it was a cup final. Yeah, it was a cup final, and we were only, you know, 9, 10 years old, and the goal that I actually, you know, set up was, you know, they had a commentator talking, and Ashley goes down the wing and he cuts back, he beats him again, puts the cross in, and then our striker Ashley Leaf, he got scouted and he played in Leeds Academy. He scored it, and that was, you know, literally on the Soccer Sunday, which is basically the goals of the week from the lower level teams. Really, that was presented by, you know, Ron Atkinson, you know, professional, you know, broadcasters, and that goal was actually on the TV. So, yeah, so it was out there.
So you saying so when did you first step in? Well, how old were you when you first stepped into that first academy?
So School of Excellence. So Bury was a School of Excellence, and there's a difference between academy in terms of like facilities, and you know your premiership, your team needs to have a certain level of facilities to get the academy name, and I guess you get more funding if you have an academy. So that was School of Excellence, and I would have been under nines and under tens. I was there for 2 years. I was captain of Bury for 2 years. And then from there, I got scouted. So when I was with
Okay,
Barry,
but hold on though. So they come to you, they come to your parents and say, we want him to join our school of excellence.
yeah, I can't remember how that one in particular went. Um, I think, you know, I think it was maybe even for my, because I just love football. My birthday party was at Bury, and we'd go around, we'd see the facilities, we'd see the changing room, and then we'd go play. That would be the birthday party, and you know, the people who ran that would be the Bury coaches. So then they saw me play, and I think that's from then. That's when they said, "Oh, this guy's a good player. Would he like to try out for this team?" So that, yeah.
Okay, so then when you're at the school of excellence, how many days a week did they train? And did you still stay with your grassroots club even though you were training with the school of excellence?
Yeah, at that age and that I was able to do both, so I did both. So I would have been training twice a week with the School of Excellence, I believe, and once a week with my local team. So 3 times a week, plus
And
games at the weekend.
games on Saturday and Sunday, one with your local and one with them.
Yeah,
And
so
to the
there's the
best that
games with your local would be Saturday, and then the games of the club would be Sunday. So you could do both.
you could do both. And then to the best of your knowledge, they were not, there's certain conditions that they would have to meet in order to be able to call themselves an academy, at least back then.
Yeah, still, yeah, there's still School of Excellence. So, yeah, so they were School of Excellence. But it would be the same thing. You just play against other School of Excellence, so other teams, like local teams, Oldham Athletic, you know, in the similar sort of level. But then your Premiership teams at the time would probably most likely be Academy. So that's the next level up.
So if you had stayed with, and is it Barry? How do you spell it?
Bury, Bury.
Okay, Barry. If you stayed with Barry and you didn't go any other place, and you were at that school of excellence, what would they have to offer you if you played the highest level they have to offer? Would you stay in the school of excellence, and that would be a feeder into their professional team?
Exactly, yes, exactly the same thing. You go up through the age groups, and then at 16, well, you're under contracts. You know, you have a contract, a year contract, and then you get 2-year contracts. But at 16 is when you can sign your, once you leave school and you leave high school at 16, in England, that's when you're legally allowed to get, get a job or drop your education. So you'd get a YTS program where you'd be on very low money. You'd be training with the first team, but you'd also be doing, jobs around the building, around the ground, for your wage, basically.
Okay, so now you're at the School of Excellence, you're playing. How would you compare the level at the School of Excellence to that level at a good grassroots club team?
Uh, it was better, it was higher, but our team was really strong. Our grassroots team was really strong, and our School of Excellence was okay. So we would beat our grassroots team, but it wouldn't be by, you know, a huge margin. So it was close, I would say.
And then the coaching at the School of Excellence, how would we talked about the coaching at the grassroots, but the moment you get into the School of Excellence, if I had to visualize it, what am I seeing in your particular, like in terms of uniforms, in terms of standards, in terms of the coaching?
Yeah. Now,
What
now
am I
you
seeing?
Now you're talking more structured. Yeah, you're wearing your uniforms, you're wearing your training uniforms, you'd have your set warm-ups, and it would be more like structured as you're used to it now. These coaches have got their licenses. A lot of the coaches are coaching in the community. So working for the club full time, going into schools, running sessions, picking up players and whatnot. So yeah, a little bit, definitely more structured than.
And in that School of Excellence program, how fluid was it for a player to be quote unquote kicked out or promoted out or get, yeah, basically released from the School of Excellence program? Was it a
Yeah,
tryout every year or how did it work?
yeah. Each year you'd get a contract. You'd get offered a contract, or you wouldn't get a contract. So there was definitely turnover. People would be trialists. So people would come in for, it depends, maybe 2-week trials or 6-week trials. When I went to the academy at Blackburn, it was a lot longer. They'd get 6-month trials. But yeah, so there was always quite a lot of turnover if you weren't, a standout.
Was that something that as a child you thought about or were you completely aware of it? Or how
And
would you
that
describe the feeling?
it depends. So at the School of Excellence, I
Yes.
wasn't aware of it. I had this mentality, and all I wanted to be was a professional player. I thought I was the best in the world. I had an invincibility about me. I had the confidence about me. And that would show on the field. So I was never worried about not getting a contract at that age, or for the School of Excellence. Now, when I went to the academy, I'd
But hold on, before we go to the academy though, but do you think other people, in other words, I'm trying to get the mentality of the players. Was that something that people were aware of? So in America,
yeah,
unless you just straight up, it's almost impossible to get cut in the to not be offered another place. Now you might be offered a lower team,
yeah,
but if you play, my son plays for what they call pre-ECNL. The
yeah,
only thing that can happen to him next year is he goes down a team,
yeah, yeah. He's always going to get a spot. Yeah,
but he's going to get a spot in this particular situation.
yeah,
So I'm trying to understand at that young age where y'all mentally you are comfortable with your spot, but where people like literally like
yeah.
I
Everyone
need to
was
go here and show up and show out because I'm trying to fight for a spot.
Yeah, everyone was very aware of it because it's a year contract. They'd hold player parent meetings. Maybe not at the School of Excellence, but at the academy you would. But it was the same thing. You're very aware of it, and it's definitely on your mind, especially if you're not a guarantee. It's definitely on your mind to how you're going to get it, because you get a lot of perks. Everything's free to start with. You get your training uniforms, you get free tickets to the games. every single week, which is a great perk. The team is doing really well, playing at high level, getting promotions. Like I say, they were playing in the championship or Division One back then. So so there was a lot of perks to doing it as well.
All right. And then before we leave on this, and you said something about the facilities at the school, at the particular school of excellence that you were at.
Yeah.
What were the facilities like?
Four. We'd train in the car park in front of the stadium, which they had. It was the car park, and they had it gated, and they had a field. On concrete, they had the field lined out and goals in there. But for match days, that was the car park, and so that was basically the facilities. But yeah, we didn't notice or care. It was just playing.
And then if you had to think about the best school of excellence to your knowledge, what would be like the best facilities in other words, was that situation indicative of a typical school of excellence or just yours?
Yeah, there's the facilities because these clubs didn't have much money. Otherwise, they would have invested it in their youth system to get the academy level. Most people would play on AstroTurf, which is a lot different to what this turf is 3G. That we're used to with the nice soft AstroTurf. I don't know if you know when you were there is very much concrete and a very thin layer of whatever it is and sand. So, you fall over, your legs are cut to high heaven, bleeding, and sand's getting in there, stinging, rock solid. So, but that would be traditional across most teams is what you'd play on.
Okay, so the next transition, the beginning and in the end, how did you go from center of excellence? And remember, in terms of details, your age.
Yeah.
How did you go from center of excellence to the academy, and where did you go? What academy did you go to?
So this one I was scouted from my town team, from my local team, the Brandon Warriors. Like I say, I was still doing very well, standing out. And then a scout from Blackburn Rovers would approach my parents and myself after a game and invite me to the tryout, to the trials.
How old were you when that happened?
I was 10. So when I went to Blackburn, I was under 11s. So
So how did you feel? Like, help us visualize it. Is it a strange man, or is it somebody you kind of already knew was there, or
not
like?
just a strange man, like older man, hiding in the background with his coat and jacket and umbrella. You'd never notice him unless you were looking for him. And he came to multiple games, and he continued to come to multiple games, and and yeah, so he'd come, and I think he either called the manager, and the manager would gave him my information, and he called my parents. But yeah, so I was definitely after. I don't think they told me immediately, but after a few, they invited me, and it wasn't even a guarantee that my parents would take me to this trial. So Blackburn was a 45-minute drive from my house each way, which in England is a long way, is a long distance. Over here, no problem. But England's anything over 10 minutes, you're not doing. That's another huge cultural difference. So I think I had to beg and to get to this trial. The difference in the trial, so the trial was on the field, Ewood Park. So this is a Premiership team winning the league. Alan Shearer, they won the Premier League. They were doing extremely well. They had a lot of money. Our tryout was literally on the field. This stadium holds, I don't know, 40, 50,000 with the TV, the huge monitor in the corner, and it was getting recorded, and you could see yourself in the monitor. You were getting changed in the changing rooms.
Okay, but hold on. So hold on though. Let's before we go there. Your parents, number one, you have to kind of like tell them this is what I really want.
Yeah.
conversations with your parents up until then, did they ever have conversations with you about, and I don't want to lead you, but like, were there any other any conversations like, if you can do this, then you can make this team, and if you can do that, then you might be spotted by this club? Did they have any football
No,
conversations with you?
they were the opposite. That was my thinking, because at that time I'm the best in the world, Yeah, give me that, get me to the next level, there was no doubt in my mind that I wasn't going to be a professional player. But my parents are very, very down to earth, and they were very happy with where I was and how things were going, and keep me there, keep me confident, big fish, small pond. And I kind of regret, taking that leap, that jump, to be honest. And if I had it my way, I would have stayed. I would have stayed local in the School of Excellence for a few more years, and waited to get picked up if they definitely wanted me, if I was good enough, then gone later when it was time to get those contracts, versus going as early as I went.
Did your parents play football at a high level?
No.
Any either?
No,
Okay.
my dad's a keen Tottenham fan, loves football, but he didn't play at a high level. Would play for the local Cubs team or Boy Scout team, and that was it. He was a goalkeeper, but he knew and understood the game, but he wouldn't. Academies were a new thing. The academy difference between School of Excellence and academy, that was a new thing at the time.
Okay, so the scout calls your parents agree, it's 45 minutes. When you get there, to the best of your memory, what was that like from a visual way? Was it more than one kid coming, or were you the only one? Did you have to wear a special kit? How did they explain what it was going to be like, and how
But
long was it going to be?
I would imagine it was like playing a game for a professional team in the Premier League. You'd arrive at the stadium, you'd walk through the doors, be greeted. Tell you where your name's on the list. They tell you what changing room you're in the home changing room. You're gonna be number 6. You got your kit laid out for you. So your Blackburn Rovers uniform all laid out for you. You sat where the players are playing in this amazing dressing room, and then you go through the tunnel onto the main field. The cameras are there. They're trying to sell you. They're trying to give you that experience, and sell. Blackburn are selling themselves to you, and if they want you. At the end, which they, look at, or they wanted me and a couple of others that made it after the trial. So we played on the field for multiple games, so small-sided games. We'd play each team once, and then that would be it. You do a quick cool down. You went to the changing room after, you get changed, and a few names got read out, and one of my names was one to get read out, and we went to the boardroom. And we go to the boardroom, and that's where they're telling you that they want to offer you a contract, and they've got it in front of you. They're asking for your signature, just like you'd see a top professional signing for Manchester United today.
So hold on though now. So that was the trial, because I was under the impression that trials would be like a couple of weeks and you just be training with the team. But
Yeah,
this one was a little bit different.
this one was different. So there is that tryout, definitely, where trialists would come into the team mid-season. But this one was like a end of season one, I'd say, an organized one where they'd have, hundreds of people come, and they'd select from that. So
So it would be hundreds of people coming, because y'all are relatively young. Hundreds of people coming, and then they're going to select from that. And when you say they read out your name, did they read out your name like publicly, and other people would see that their name wasn't read out?
yeah, there's no disguising it. That's quite often done, and you had lots of trials for like town teams. That's how they do it. Just at the end, they read your name out, and if your name gets read out, they ask you to stay back, and it's a good thing.
So my son and I, we do these funny Instagram videos, or we try to be funny. And one
Yeah,
of them is like when your coach, try not to smile when your coach says something positive for you in front of everybody. And the thing is, I'll send it to you. He's like this, you try not to smile and you're like this. And I guess that's how you would be because it would be like you would be happy for yourself, but you would also be keenly aware that other people's dreams may be crushed. So you can't be like, I'm assuming you can't just be like jumping like on The Price is Right, but you
No,
are also happy.
yeah, inside, yeah. We had lots of trials at that age, because there's a structure, there's town team, and then so uh, whereas like for the town team, so that's where all the best players within your town would play, and that was a series of trials with knockout elimination kind of. So week one would be this pool, and then they dilute it as the weeks go around, so you're used to it kind of. But lucky enough, my name was always called, so I got used to, you know, um, not showing it on the outside, but keeping it in on the inside, and your heart's certainly pumping, that's for sure.
So, okay. Yeah, sort of like Hunger Games or Squid Games. So you make it to Blackburn Rovers. They were an academy team in the EPL.
So
What?
before that, I think what it would be important for you to say is my parents were dead against not sending me, and I cried for a week. Then I didn't sign the contract there and then, which everyone, the other kids, well, I can't remember. There was only a couple of us who made it. But my parents, they only, I think it was a big sell for me to even go to this thing, because they knew how much of a commitment it would be to drive, to and from that thing. And I cried for weeks, begging, let me do it, because I was that confident, and I knew nothing else. And eventually they caved in.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask you, like, what if you're looking at different spaces or places, or if you weren't sure if they were gonna pressure you to sign a contract right there. Okay, so now you bet they finally allow you to go. It's 45 minutes both ways at a minimum.
Yeah.
And okay, so then once you start training with them, let's start comparing the difference to help us understand now what is the level like of training.
Yeah, no, no. So I was a big fish in a small pond, and now, yeah, there was a huge level improvement. I remember I was off the pace to start with. It took me a bit of time to get settled in, because I'm used to running around and skipping past these people, which I had the ability to do, but I was quite a shy kid, away from the field. So new people, I was no longer the fastest player or the best player, and it was completely a step up in terms of the training than what I was used to. So it took me a bit of time to get bedded in for sure. I didn't naturally fit in either, I would say. It took me time to fit in and gel with my teammates, to be honest, which, yeah, is
And how
important to
old were
be
you at that
comfortable.
point?
This is 11, so under 11s.
All right. And so how would you describe the coaching and the number of coaches, the per player ratio, and
Yeah,
like how
no,
would you
no,
describe everything?
excellent. Now you're talking, there was two coaches. You'd have your head coach and your assistant coach. Both had played professional, both high level, both excellent, brilliant with us. Um, and I wouldn't have a bad word to say about the coaching, to be honest.
But give me an example of something they did that was like that made them like, okay, when my ex center of excellence coach did that, let me give you an example.
Yeah,
So I can tell the difference as a layman. My son's director who trains their team, I can tell that he can draw out the intensity. It could be the same drill that somebody else is doing. But because of his charisma, bravado, respect, a lot of things, he can draw out a different degree of intensity.
yeah,
I can see some coaches can hone in on a level of detail. Oh, you're not positioning your body this way, or you're not angle of your foot is not where it needs to be in order for the directional control.
yeah.
So And that's just me because I just been watching my kids train for so long. I'm not a soccer person in that regard.
Yeah.
But when you get to that academy level and you say these coaches are excellent, try to give me an example of something they would do that would be different than, or not different, but at a higher level than, say, a center of excellence. And we're talking in general, and obviously a grassroots, and we're talking in general.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, we had two coaches. I've never had two legitimate coaches, and they'd be, they'd work. You could tell they'd worked together for many years and complemented each other very well. So one person, or the head coach, would be, the guy who would do the drill and demonstrate, and explain it, and he'd be like, the sergeant to get that energy and to, discipline, and the other coach would be the guy who'd come round and be more of like, it was more like a good cop bad cop kind of routine. So you'd have your strict one, and then you'd have your assistant that would just do this, open your body up and go around and be more specific, kind of thing. But there was two coaches at every practice, every game. That was they were your two coaches, and you'd have them for the season or for 2 seasons.
Do you think those coaches coached other teams in the club?
It all depends. Some of them would, some of them you would be the only team. Most likely you were the only team because on the Sunday, everyone would play on a Sunday, and then you'd go and travel with on the team bus. So it's impossible for them to be in two places at once. So really, yeah, you're dedicated to one team.
And then how many quote unquote contact hours do you remember at that earlier, that when you started?
So when I first started, it was twice a week, for an hour and a half. Each practice would have been, no, I think 2 hours. I think the practices were 2 hour practices for twice a week, and then after a year or maybe two, I think five of us got offered a longer term contract, like a 2 year contract, and they'd have us come in on a Saturday morning as well for an additional one, just us in a smaller group for an additional practice. That's how it went. So for the first 2 years, it would just be two, and then I got a longer term contract, and we come in for 3 practices.
And I'm gonna ask an aside, because you mentioned in our pre-interview, but then how are you able to play cricket at a high level?
So that was so the seasons didn't really intermingle. So in England, your football season is fall or autumn, winter, spring, and then your cricket is the summer period. But obviously there'd be a few weeks of crossover at the end of the spring season to the start of the cricket season, and vice versa at the end of the cricket season the football season would start. So there'd be a couple of weeks either side, but really, it went year round, and it flowed quite nicely.
So you can give me a real example or a hypothetical on what you would think. What would happen if you told the coach, "Hey, it right in that period where it overlapped, listen, the next 2 Saturdays I can't make it because I have a special cricket games coming up." How do you think they would react to that? Or did you ever have a situation like that?
So then it wouldn't be with cricket really because of the seasons. Then it would be with your school team. My high school team would play on a Saturday morning, which they didn't really want you. Yeah, they didn't really want you to. If we're being honest, and if I don't think they would have liked it if I missed that extra practice to play with the high school team, um, on a Saturday. It all depend on the coach, to be honest.
Okay, so now, because we're almost at the very last 5 minutes, if you had to compare those academy teams to what you have seen, I know these are general questions, but highest level of soccer in the States based on what you have seen, well, how would it be? How would you compare it? The
Yes,
level of play.
I mean that's it's so difficult, very general. I'd say, well, I mean your best academy teams in the country would would be able to go across, and they can compete with the academies in England now, I'm sure. But as you know, there's academies every 2 minutes away. So it would have to, it all depends on the age group and the level of team. So I'm not saying, they're head and shoulders above by any means, but it was a high standard, high level of play. I remember, it's brutal. People coming in trying to take your place on a weekly basis, and you're fighting for your spot on the weekly basis. We talked about it before. There was no like what you're talking about. You get released from this team, and then you might be on the team below. You're fighting for that contract. There was only one team. Now that's changed now. From what I've seen from doing the trips across, they have teams below. So you're not necessarily just thrown out because they recognize that the kids are developing at different times, different speeds. I was released because of my size, because I was always small, but now I'm 6 foot. So who knows if they'd have given me a couple of years to grow. You never know. But
So
yeah.
it's interesting you say that, because we're wrapping it up. Why did you say you kind of wish in retrospect you had stayed in the center of excellence just a little bit longer?
Just because of the confidence I had, where I was I was getting success, and I was the captain. I knew I was the best, and I think I think that is key to succeed. I know that's key to succeed in anything you do in life. It doesn't have to be football or soccer, but you need confidence. You need to do well. When you're struggling with confidence, football is hard enough, or anything is hard enough. But if you're struggling with confidence, you're giving yourself it gets real hard. So that's a key thing to be able to have that confidence. So you never know. It's all hypothetical, but I believe I would have continued to be a big fish in a small pond, and I would have whereas going in as a small fish and taking a lot of time to settle in, you lose that confidence. And then I suffered a number of injuries and whatnot. I wish, if it was to do it all again, I would have stayed being a big fish in a small pond.
So that's interesting. So couple more random questions. Do you believe that back then, and then we can fast forward it to today, were kids getting a lot of quote unquote private training, or was that not even a thing back then?
No, no,
Okay, so then
go
those
no further.
days,
Yeah, that was never a thing. I tell my friends, and now it is a thing. Now it's becoming a thing. I see a lot of people. One of my friends over here, who I met over here, is running his own private training company. And when I was at university, I used to coach for a Brazilian soccer school at university, and you'd see after the practices, some of the coaches would run some private lessons with those kids. But growing up, that was never a thing. And me telling my friends, we do private lessons, and telling them how much people pay for them it blows their mind. They can't understand it.
yeah, that's how it was with me when I went to visit my friends. It's not even like you're trying to it's not even like you're talking about the same thing but a different amount. It's like they literally, you have to explain to them the concept first before you even get to the money.
Yeah,
Like, do you know that people actually do this? And then, what? Really? Yes. And it costs this. What? Huh? So I get that. So we're gonna breeze through these last ones. So you mentioned it a couple of times. You were quote unquote released at 16. They describe that experience. What happens? How does that work?
so I was released at 15 from Blackburn from the academy. I was contracted from U13 to U15 for 2 years. Between in my last year, like they even told me, yeah, they even stopped playing me. I wasn't even playing in the games at the weekend. It got to that cutthroat. Like, you're not even playing in the games. You can continue to practice and whatever. And then just after Christmas time, they told me that they weren't gonna be giving me another contract. Now's a good time to be released because you can get into another club before everyone gets released at the end of the year and there's more competition. So they put me in touch with another club, Oldham Athletic, which is now School of Excellence again. I'd say higher than the Berry. And I was on trial there. So that's when I did like a longer term trial. I did a 6-month trial with those guys. So that's when you are part of the team, you get your uniform and whatever, but you don't have a contract. You just go in. And then at the end of the season, I got a 1-year trial. I got a 1-year contract with those guys, and that's your final year before you get your professional contract. And then after that, I didn't get a professional contract.
So you didn't get a professional contract, what would have been your, and that's going to be a good segue into what you did do. But when someone does not get a professional contract, what are their traditional options? Like what's available to you in general?
Back then,
Soccer related.
Back then, not a lot, to be honest. You either get it or you don't. I mean, you can, there's plenty of stories of people going elsewhere and getting a trial elsewhere and whatnot, but it becomes very difficult then because they're only taking two. Yeah, it depends. They might not even take anybody to get a professional contract in that age group, because it's not like they have a U16 team. You're now playing youth level, so it's probably under 18s. So if they've got better players than you, then and they don't have enough space, you're not getting picked up. So it's very minimal people who would actually get offered that contract.
So then
maybe
you would go and play like Sunday league, or like, so let's say your goal was to be a professional footballer. Would then you go and play for your grassroots club?
Yeah, you go back to your grassroots club. Well, at that age, 16, you're now going. A couple of grassroots clubs will be going, but really you're into adult football then. Then you go and play with the local men's team that would be local to you. Yeah.
And then, so with that being said, you threw out some terms: high school soccer, university soccer, and Grand Porter. We're going to end it with those. So, oh, and then an acronym. I just want to know it. What's YTS?
Youth
I
training
thought you said
scholarship.
huh?
It's like a scholarship. So
Okay.
youth scholarship. Basically it's like a professional. It's not your professional contract. It's your 2-year. You either get a 1-year or a 2-year deal before you get your professional at 18. So they call it a YTS, and it's basically a scholarship program. So you're getting paid, very minimum money, £50 a week, let's say. But you're still, and then you'd be doing some jobs. You'd be cleaning the first team boots, but you're in every day. It's full time. You're training every day. You're training with the first team or reserves or whatever it may be.
All right. So before we end with high school, university, and Grand Porter, how do you think that impacts your mental health, and maybe not getting to your situation, but in general? Because I would think this would be very overwhelming.
Oh yeah, it's awful. I mean, I stopped playing for a full year. I was burnt out. There wasn't. Looking back now, I probably regret doing that and looking to, continue and press on and give it another go. But I was burnt out, because think of, being the best player at you under 11s, no doubt in your mind, having this invincibility, to losing your confidence, having so many injuries, to having so many people every single practice. New people are coming in, trialing out, coming, as you got older, they're bringing them in from other countries, Ireland, Canada, so they're coming all that way. They're gonna play them, just constantly fighting. So then, being told that you can't play on the Sunday, so you're doing all the hard work, the practices, but you're not even able to play in the games. So then getting released, to then, fighting for another contract and then getting released again. My parents, my dad, was burnt out as well from traveling all across the country every single, for practices and for games. So I quit. I was done. I'd fallen out of love of the game.
Okay. Well, and thank you for your candor and thank you for being open. But I think this is important because I'm gonna let my son. I have a son now who's 13. I would describe him as a big fish in a small pond at this moment.
Yeah,
And he's actually right now going through some growing pains and stuff. And I can kind of see it is good for him to hear that it's not all rosy. Just because you work hard, that doesn't guarantee anything. We hear about the 1% to 2% in theory, but like you said, invincibility, that's a key word. Everybody thinks, oh yeah, that's great, but not me. And so I really want them to hear, and I want the kids who are listening also to hear that if you're going to go down this journey, it's really difficult, right? And you
yeah,
just have to be prepared. And then there are more resources out there to support people. I don't know. I'm not going to say that in England. I think England has a lot of work to do with supporting players who are released. But I will say, as many issues as we have in the States, and we have a lot of them, a whole lot, at least they're culturally very valuable options for people who don't make it professionally. You can play college. You have these lower tier leagues that you can play in,
yeah.
and it's not really an all or nothing as much as it is in England. I mean, the
What
amount of time and energy you have to devote in England compared to like that's all they do. So
Well,
am I
I was
mischaracterizing
talking
it?
about being professional. It's all or nothing then when you get released, probably. But then you can go and play with you can play with your grassroots team, your Saturday team. It's just adults, and that's where it goes all the way down. They have a pyramid. So if your team gets promoted, you get to the next level, then you're semi-professional. There's a few tiers of semi-professional, then you're in the professional setup in the lower levels. So there's still a way up, if you're in there and if you're doing well, you might get scouted, and whatnot. So that as in the professional, it is probably, but not on all occasions. There's still a way back.
Okay, and that's good perspective. So, in wrapping up, you said high school football. So, it was my understanding that you do your A levels, but there is no real, and you're going to correct me on this because I don't know. I didn't think about it as having high school football in England.
So your A levels is college. So you have high school, college, university. Whereas in America, your high school is at 18, finishes at 18, and you go to college. Our high school finishes at 16. In England, at 16, you're an adult. You can leave your house, you can smoke, you can get a full-time job. So at 16, you can make the decision, do you continue with your education? If you continue with your education, you're going to go to college. And that's where you do your A levels. So that's a two-year course. And from your A levels, that's when you go to university.
So, before you did your A levels, you're saying you played football for your school.
So so my A level, so no, so I always played for my school team, yeah. Uh,
So, you always, even when you were at academy, did you play for your school team?
yeah. During the
And
week.
that would have been frowned upon, but they allowed it or encouraged it or what? It
They
was kind of like
didn't
don't ask, don't tell kind of thing.
yeah, they didn't encourage it. Um and they probably, if you ask them, they'd probably steer you not to because they don't want you to get injured, they don't want you to overplay and whatnot. But everybody played.
Okay. And then university. So you release, and then how does that then translate to universities playing?
No, so I was released at 16, so then it's going to the college. So I continue my education, I play in college. I play and do my studies, and then I went to university at
Oh,
20.
I'm sorry, I messed
At
up. I
18,
messed up.
sorry. At 18.
So when you were doing college and your A levels, who were you playing with at that point?
At that point, you're playing with you're just playing with your college teams, and that's what I'm saying. I'm back in now, back in with my friends or that level of players. It might not be those specific players, and I was not a standout. I was not a standout. I think we had three teams. Um, I was on the second team, I believe. I didn't even go straight into the first team in my university in my college. Um, I think I
Oh,
did.
now I get it. And let me just pause on that. That's an incredible fact because you're at an academy
Yeah,
fighting tooth and nail. Then you go back to college, A levels, and you're playing. and you're not necessarily one of the standouts there. That just shows you how competitive it is.
Yeah, yeah, I was not like, I mean, I was pretty good. And I got moved up to the first team in and out, but I was not like, yeah, I was not a standout, that's for sure.
Okay. And then you go to university. So you do your A levels and then you go to university.
Well, here's an ironic thing as well at my college. So now the people who have got the YTS at Bury, which is the team that I first started at, they would do their schoolwork. So they do half day college and then they do half day football. So they were coming to our school and they were playing, in our college teams as well. So they're like living my dream kind of thing that I thought, not thought I was too good for, but up and left at an early age. And now I come back and I'm only in the second team when it comes we're at 16.
That's amazing. All right. And so university, where did you go to university?
Leeds Carnegie.
Leeds Carnegie. And Graham Potter was there now. I mean, was there then.
Yes, Graham Potter. So my first year I didn't play because I was injured. So I'd go back and I'd play for my Saturday team in Manchester, called Walshire Sports, which is a good team, good club, and that's one grade below semi-professional. In my second year, then I tried out for the team. And within, there's a big pool, and that's again a knockout where they narrow it down, each day, each time. But yeah, in my first practice, in my first tryout, the first team manager was Graham Potter, and he took me aside right away and asked me the next day to come and practice with the first team, who had been going through the summer because it was semi-professional, so they'd done their pre-season. And then the day after that, I think I was playing. I was playing semi-professional in a game in the FA Cup, which you would have heard of.
But how are you playing semi-professional in college? And you know how we think about NCAA.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
So they had two teams. So the NCAA would be on a Wednesday, and then they'd be at the level where they had a semi-professional team as well that would play on a Saturday. So it was the same team, but they'd be in two leagues basically. So yeah.
Oh, so there your university team could also be on the pyramid.
Yeah, they were on the pyramid, yeah.
That's interesting. I did not know that at all.
Yeah. So a few of those guys, a few of them would, like Loughborough is a very high level football sports university. A lot of professional athletes in all sports have come from Loughborough. And then Leeds Carnegie, the rugby team, they're famous for their rugby, is a professional rugby team. I believe, yeah. So
okay, guys, man, this has been action packed. It's a lot of detail. Actually, after these interviews, I almost have a headache, but I love going into this level of detail because it helps demystify a lot of the information, misinformation, stereotypes, overgeneralizations that we get on social media. And then also people get to know you, and you become a resource for people to have specific conversations. And I'm looking forward to you guys getting the details organized about your trip so that we can repost it into the youth soccer guest player group, because I think a lot of people would benefit from your experience, not only the trip, but also your mentorship and being able to talk to young players about the journey that you took. I think that's just as important as the trip itself. So guys, this has been Neil Crawford. I'm the founder of Anytime Soccer Training and also the host of the Inside Scoop. I have sat down with the founder of Become Elite Soccer, director, coach, Carl Ashley. Carl, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thank you.
When my sons began travel soccer, every coach and all the other parents gave us the same advice. Team training just wasn't enough. To really improve, they needed to get extra touches at home. So I wanted to help them practice at home, but I found it very difficult. I spent hours searching the internet for soccer drills. YouTube gave me a lot of ideas, but the videos were random and not follow along. I wanted a step-by-step program that went from beginner to advanced that my boys could grow into. Trust me, I tried every program imaginable. Each of them had their merits, but none of them were comprehensive enough or included fun games. I knew my sons needed to work on dribbling, passing, receiving, ball mastery, finishing, and so much more. Fast forward to when I began coaching and all the parents had the same problem. I knew that the couple of hours that they were with me was not enough, but I had no way of giving all the kids easy to follow homework and then tracking to see who did it. Sure, I would send my teams random YouTube videos, but they weren't follow along, they weren't easy to use, and I had no way of rewarding those players who made the extra effort. I created Anytime Soccer Training to solve these problems and more. The application is easy to use, every video is 100% follow along, and the program covers everything. It's the only online training program with literally thousands of training videos and hundreds of fun games and skills challenges. With Anytime Soccer Training, coaches can assign homework, track their players' progress, and even give rewards. And parents have a one-stop solution for in-home training. Check out Anytime Soccer Training today and, like me, help your child build skill and confidence on and off the pitch.